we'd never seen anything quite like 2001's Band of Brothers. HBO's brilliant adaptation of Stephen Ambrose's non-fiction World War II account, which at the time was one of the biggest budgeted TV shows ever. And its scale and its sense of epic and its sense of heartbreak, I think, will always be remembered by those people who had the opportunity to watch it first time around. Now, in an age when we've got Game of Thrones and we've got these huge budget TV series, we wouldn't have them without Band of Brothers. And it's great to see Spielberg and Hanks teaming up again, this time to tell another aspect of World War II from a completely different perspective, this time from the sky. It's similar in arc and quality to the two earlier shows, Brothers and the Pacific, linked by a voiceover, Anthony Boyle as the likable navigator, Major Harry Crosby, guiding us through the 100th bomb group of the US Air Force, who have to fly into occupied Europe on strategic missions. And spoilers, we do know that not everyone is going to make it back alive. Yes. I thoroughly enjoyed episode 1. I have a thing for this kind of not this kind of storytelling, but stories based around airmen, like Memphis Belle, for instance. Mm. I think it's a beautifully done, beautifully adapted series, and as it should be, with all the money that Apple can throw at it, and the touch of Spielberg to it, and Hanks, in the same way that they did with Band of Brothers. At the moment, I'm only 1 episode in. I think you're 2 episodes in.
Yeah.
It feels as though it's just getting started. I'm just starting to recognize the characters. Nothing's hit me yet in the same way emotionally as Band of Brothers did. And that was key to friendship between Damian Lewis's character, Richard Winters, and Ron Livingston's Lewis Nixon. But the chemistry between Austin Butler, who is just one of those actors who just shines with charm, as Gail Buck Cleaven, and Callum Turner's John Bucky Egan, central to that story. It brings an element of Air Force cool to it, and it, with his matinee screen idol looks. But it also feels that's going to be, so far, the heart of the series.
Yeah, like you, I've always had a fascination with like the air aspect of warfare. As a kid, I used to love and obsess over, the planes that were used during World War II, from like the Hurricanes and the Spitfires to, and you see it in this, one of my favorite wartime planes of all time, the B-17 Flying Fortress, which is a huge focus of this because that was the bombing plane. I love getting inside. I love like films that let you get inside those cockpits and get to see a perspective of the people who fought and flew in those kind of like situations. And this is kind of what I've been waiting for ever since Band of Brothers came out, because Band of Brothers Band of Brothers just hit a zeitgeist. We'd never seen that kind of scale on the small screen before. We'd never seen such cinematography used on TV in such a marvelous, unique way. And whilst the Pacific was just as good, it lacked that impact because we'd already seen it before. And to some degree, you could say that this lacks that impact because we've seen it done before. However, for me, I'm completely in with this because this is now finally tapping into the aspect of war that has always fascinated me. The aerial attacks, the bombing raids, the plans, the threats. Because you always think like, the pilots like just fly over and bomb and then fly off. Getting to see, this 100th bomb group were now nicknamed the Bloody 100th because they suffered heavy losses through its combat missions. And that's because the American air raids were done during daytime so they could get precision bombing, so they could line things up and get line of sight. Whereas the British did bombing raids overnight where it was just like scatter over an area and cause as much decimation as possible. that is kind of like approached in this, and it allows you to analyze like the different aspects of war and the different ways that different sides worked and the risks that they were taking. Every mission that they went on, they set off knowing that they might not be coming back. And it's brutal at times. It's heartfelt at times. It's starkly funny at moments. Episode 2, when you get to it, is when it all starts to come together beautifully, because the focus is on one of the bombing raids and you are in the planes with them through it and you're seeing how they operate. It's well cast, as you'd expect from this kind of production. It's, you've mentioned Butler and Turner, but you've also got Barry Keoghan in there as Lieutenant Curtis Biddick, and once again showing everything that Barry Keoghan can do. This is just an absolute star-packed casting. And then, as you'd expect, like we saw with Band of Brothers and the Pacific, you would spend a day listing all the support roles that come in for brief periods or for recurring roles, because it's epic in scale. It's huge and it's beautiful. The look of the film is absolutely beautiful.
It's a massive canvas that they painted on it, and you need the biggest TV to watch it. I wouldn't be amiss watching this in the cinema. I watched this with the kiddo. I thought might be a little bit too young, and I spent a lot of time explaining that these were real people. These were ordinary men. Most of them never trained as pilot. Never trained as pilot, fighting in machinery that was new technology back then, and that moral simplicity of fighting fascism and fighting the worst elements of the world and people coming together, the utter bravery that we have to look back on with modern eyes and applaud and salute, because we live in a dangerous world, and to be able to do those things that those men did is chilling, and a reminder that without them the world would be a very, very different place. So that is Master of the Air. You can find it on Apple, and we highly recommend it.
The latest animated offering from Illumination certainly isn't as engaging and fun as most of their output, but it still has enough charm and chuckles to make it a decent enough offering for families. The story is a family of ducks led by the nervous father, Mac Mallard, voiced by Kumail Nanjiani, have never left their New England pond. However, after a group of migrating ducks arrive for a brief stopover at the pond, the family are intrigued by the idea of adventure and heading off to Jamaica, eventually convincing Mac to let them all fly off and go on their own little vacation. The journey will see them encounter peril, danger, and excitement, but will also at the same time open Mac's eyes up to what the outside world is really like. French animator Benjamin Renner has always worked with traditional animation methods, and for this film he had to learn how to adapt his own style over to a computer-generated medium, which gives the style and feel of the animation in this a somewhat traditional modern fusion that isn't as polished as most of the Illumination output, but it has a simple charm that actually works. Story-wise, this is effectively National Lampoon's Duck Vacation, with the structure of the film hanging around a handful of encounters that the family have as they make their way on their journey. Through these encounters, however, that's where the biggest laughs and the most fun comes. Voices such as Carol Kane as Erin, the Great Blue Heron, Aquafina as Chump, the leader of a gang of pigeons, and even David Mitchell as a tranquil leader of a duck farm. Each of them with minor characters that bring a different element of fun. And Kane's scenes alone had me chuckling away. The whole swamp section with Kane is just perfect. It's a short 83 minutes runtime, doesn't have enough story to carry further than that, but it certainly doesn't drag, and it packs enough energy to make for an entertaining diversion for all the family, even if it doesn't quite fly as high as it could.